official person isn't here tonight. I'd like to open this meeting at 7:30, and we'll start by approving the minutes. Anybody got any omissions or corrections to the minutes? I had one under Jamie Cruz. I think it should be ag exemption, should be in there.
Okay, yep.
Anybody else?
I had one small one under the 420 Newtown Road item. I think it said like this abutter at the very beginning when it should have said the abutter.
Where are we again, sorry?
So under the YAP, it's at the very end. I don't have a paper copy in front of me.
All right, yes. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
All those, can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Administrative discussion, YAP, 420 Newtown Road property line resolution. Has that?
No, I sent a letter to the town council and Keith and haven't heard of Keith back. So, I'll see what, if anything they want to do that's a harder line than SVT was, and LCT were going to take.
Mhm. Okay.
Unfortunately, it means if they want to take a hard line, it's going to cost money.
Yeah, but it seems like it's one of those things, if you don't settle it now, it could be trouble down the road.
Yeah.
Bylaw regulatory review, anybody, or do you want to pass over that one?
Yeah, why don't we pass over that one?
And do you, I guess you were involved with the Joyce Williams property purchase?
Yeah, just know the town officially owns Joyce Williams property.
We have a right-of-way from Boxborough Depot.
Yep. Which is not passable now. But at some point, we'll get a trail made out there. Maybe a parking lot across the street and kiosks, so there's some things to do. I'm gonna walk, I think this Thursday, with Audubon and some of the other people out there to talk about the logging or, you know, the forest management pieces that all went into it.
Oh, excellent.
Will there be access that'll be a fire truck acceptable or not?
No. No, they won't.
Okay.
Ms. Williams very specifically did not want, or her attorney, did not want motorized vehicles on that easement up. And I don't think you can get down that far from Newtown.
Okay.
You can probably get close, but you can't. Of course, now that they've logged it, you can get closer, but
They would have to come in through Newtown Hill in, if you ever had a fire out in there.
if they could, yeah.
I think that's something we should explore a little bit more on all our lands.
Yeah.
To have some sort of fire access.
Yeah, because Oak Hill has all the fire roads.
Yeah.
It's got quite a few.
Yeah.
And that's a big parcel of land, too. Okay. Anybody else got something want to add? We've still got about 2 minutes.
Yep, the only thing I wanted to mention is the appeal did come in for 6 Cottage Way. I'm not sure if you saw that. There is a site walk with DEP either Wednesday or Thursday, next Wednesday or Thursday, the 30th or 31st at 10. So I don't know if anybody wants to.
Is that for wetland delineation, or is it for? Is the appeal based on?
The appeal is mostly based on that and whatever they could throw into it.
Kind of doubting the line, and then like one contour was like 106 and not 108, and wetlands were shown at 108. And so just
Yeah.
various
Like it
snippets
said, so.
of things.
See what the EP says.
Exactly. I got to remind Kristen I'm not there to represent her, that she has to do this herself. I'm just hanging back and listening, so.
So we don't necessarily have to be out.
I'm going to go, because, you know, when it
I'm
happens,
available,
but-
I'll go.
Okay, great. I'll send an email when they
In the past, they've dumped it back in our lap, is what's happened when the appeals.
Well, it depends. Sometimes they make a decision. They
Well-
made a decision on, I forget the piece of land.
Worcester Drive, I think.
No, the one up from Bulkley.
Yeah, but Robert, that
Made a decision on that.
business down there to that 40B behind the Toyota place, that got dumped back in our lap. We had to sit through a appeals hearing on that. So, and I almost
Take it
think,
as it comes, I guess.
Yeah.
yeah,
Take it as it comes. We
yeah,
don't really
but I'm
have-
just saying that
Yeah.
it can happen. They don't always make that formal decision. All right.
And the only thing I wanted to add is I neglected to put the Cooper Farm enforcement order discussion on here, but since it's not a public notice meeting anyway, and we mentioned the last meeting, they got the empty slot at 8:40. Sorry.
We were hoping.
Wait, what?
So they're going to be at the 8:40 slot,
Cooper Farm?
Cooper Farm, yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll open a public hearing, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, 119 Russell Street, R18-204-8XX, request for approval of wetland resource area delineation.
Good evening. For the record, Brian Goodrill and Dave Cowell with Hancock Associates. Dave, if you wanna just run with it?
Sure. So we filed an ANRAD for the verification of wetland delineated at 119. This is a property that, I get you guys oriented. Russell Street, this is owned by Workers' Credit Union. There's an existing building on the property now. The 495 corridor is just on the opposite side of the wetland. It was, I delineated this, it was a single sequence wetland delineation line.
Don't where Great Road is, it's just up the corner from
Oh, where-
the intersection from the point.
Oh, the match line, yeah, of course.
There's actually two parcels. There's an existing order of conditions on this piece. It was a mixed use that was permitted in 2015. And I believe there was some vegetation management that was done as a part of that order of conditions in the interim between then and now. Work did begin. The retaining wall was installed and the site was generally brought up to subgrade. But that is the original wetland delineation on that side, but was included for reference.
No, you guys didn't do that delineation.
We did not, Oxbow.
No,
did.
Oxbow did that.
Yeah, Scott's Myers.
So it's well, these two conjoining properties, our ANRAD is, that were before you tonight is only for parcel, I forget, this is parcel 110 or 11. It's the one parcel, but this does show you the big picture, the match lines, is a large open wetland complex over here. Most of this is standing open water. It's sort of ponded. It has vegetated margins as you approach the shoreline. From Russell Street, the wetland series begins. It wraps around the building. Most of this is manicured lawn right up to the edge of water, and it has been for a long period of time. It's maintained as such. So there wasn't a lot of vegetation. I had conservatively flagged at observation of mean annual high water line as an open water feature. This, the water fluctuates with the season. So it's mostly based on soils and observation of sort of where your rack line is. So I think I was fairly conservative there. And then as you approach the adjoining property, it becomes vegetated again. This is a lot of glossy buckthorn in here, for which my flags tapered off property, and then onto the adjoining parcel.
This looks like you almost followed the same contour line on the other property, adjoining property.
On this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see the elevations on this one.
It's a
Let's see. Oh, the
fairly
elevations on the
straightforward
plans, yeah.
delineation.
It looks really.
Especially-
It is. Amy walked the site this morning.
Yep.
Yeah, these are some of the site photographs that were included. You guys can pass this around, but you can see that most of it is, the back of the building is manicured lawn, vegetated directly to surface of water.
Yeah.
Expanse.
Did you go, Amy?
Yeah, the stuff on this end of the building is pretty straightforward the stuff that Oxbow did is more difficult, but that's still a valid delineation, so we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, this side,
That's messy.
it becomes a little more transitional in the vegetated
Yeah.
state on the, which is, again, not purview to our ANRAD. But it does become more transitional, whereas this
So we're
one's-
not looking at, this is one owner now on both of these? or
Correct.
What?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's not Workers Cooperative Bank, or is it still Workers?
Or it
It's
is
Workers
Workers
Credit
Credit
Union.
Union.
It owns both
Credit
parcels.
Union on both parcels,
Correct.
but we're only looking at one?
Because there is an active order of conditions on this
Right.
parcel here, which defines the wetland line. So this is the ANRAD.
And we have the paperwork in the file about the property transfer and all that.
Right.
So Workers Credit Union has the order of conditions. It's transferred.
Do we know that they own the other one at that time? The adjacent parcel? It doesn't
They,
ring a bell.
they did not own
I'm not
this
sure, I
at the
know
time. It
Omni
was a
Property
different-
Management was doing both, because they were who I was talking to about getting the vegetation management done on the old piece.
Is this your flag there? Is that what I'm seeing?
There were, yeah, you'll see, there were some pink fin flags that, yep, that was my flag. And there's also another one way over here. So again, I
Your
was.
line is up the slope a little.
It is, yeah. I was, in light of absence of herbaceous and
Right.
shrub vegetation, I felt that I was very conservative in terms of looking for, just any indication of high water mark, and I was using my auger to look for just soil transects back and forth, looking for a
Sure.
break in the soils,
Yeah.
where I stopped seeing
Right, yeah,
redoxymorphic
'cause
features.
The water's here, groundwater right beneath here.
It is,
It's gonna
yeah.
be very shallow.
Yep.
Okay.
So the,
Of course, none of those pin flags are in now, but, what were you gonna say, Carl?
No, so, what, is there another plan for that parcel? Or just,
What specifically are you looking for?
This is just the ANRAD.
Yeah, this is strictly the ANRAD.
Yeah, we're just, yep, just to verify the wetland.
So we
line.
have, we have not filed a notice of intent yet for any proposed development on this.
Is that going to change?
We
In about
will-
5 minutes.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to just
That's where I was
focus on.
going, but since you asked the question,
Yeah,
there you go.
I'd like to just focus on the ANRAD right now, and then we'll dive into just the whole idea about what we're proposing out here between the two parcels and how that is gonna work,
So, I
essentially.
guess I'll ask Amy at this point, since she's the one that's seen it.
It was pretty straightforward delineation. You couldn't go
You
too,
felt comfortable with the delineation as,
well, I'm willing to go out again if anybody wants to see it.
I feel very comfortable with you going out.
You saw the photos, so.
I see the photos, I didn't see.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was recently, right? That was this season, so.
Yep.
Water is likely
Everywhere.
higher
Higher than,
than
yeah.
typical.
Yeah, there's maybe, from the flags down to the
Like
water
from
now,
the-
there's maybe, 2 or 3 feet of emergent growth that was flagged.
Yeah, and there was, yep, and there was a
Yeah.
little bit of vegetation that was coming in now that wasn't present when I was there,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, it's, the water
Swamp
level's down, I
milkweed
think,
and-
actually now.
yeah.
So
Here.
would you call that an intermittent stream or a,
It's just standing water. I'm not sure if it's a pond, is it over 10,000 square feet?
I think it's, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it meets the pond criteria. It does, USGS does map an intermittent feature that, as you approach the adjacent property, it begins to channelize, and then there is, there's a map,
it goes
Perennial.
under 495?
right, there's a map perennial that's off-site that goes basically through is it the cloverleaf off-ramp that comes and goes over to Russell Street, and this stream runs tributary into that greater perennial feature.
Now, is that flowing off the pond from the adjacent property?
What do you mean? Is it falling off the?
Yeah,
From here?
yes.
This standing water is just generally in this area, correct? And then we saw a channel in the back of this
It is in the back of
property
this
here.
property along the, I imagine when they built the 495 corridor, that the slopes off of the highway taper down, and stormwater runoff from the road is probably received and comes along that. But it was dry when we were out there, and it's mapped intermittent. And this is, Amy was kind enough to pull previous permitting on this project, and our wetland lines, I believe that, well, it was a certificate of compliance from, I think, 2002.
It was a 500s, yeah.
Right, yeah. Our delineation appeared to be consistent with what was previously permitted.
Yeah, and that was just basically for the parking lot side, but it was,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a better picture of it. It's FEMA.
so you're asking for approval for flags A102 to A123?
Yeah, because the
Yes,
O's,
yep.
O's were oxbows.
Right, yep, that's right.
Yep. So 102 to 123.
Yep.
This is all of the point up here.
Yeah.
There might be the USGS in there as well. Are you
Yeah,
looking
looking
at
at the FEMA, the firm,
Yeah.
permit.
See that?
Because that other
The
piece
way
is
the
in
stream
floodplain.
courses are mapped.
Is this 87?
What did it say, Jim?
I would assume
This is
that
the-
other.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
a
the
perennial
floodplain.
feature that runs through the clover leaf.
The
But there is,
second parcel down towards 119. It's got to be in the floodplain,
I think the red line might be right
I
over
would
it.
think.
I thought there was an
Parcel.
intermittent
Yeah, this part.
that ties
yeah.
into it.
Yeah, it's
It
showing
gets a
a,
lot of, there's a lot of water in there. It's all connected.
Yeah, I, yeah.
if you want to see the topo, and then it's Appendix G has the photos. I guess I feel like if, Amy has seen the flagging and it's pretty straightforward, and you've discussed, going through your soil profiles, to find where the line is, I don't have any concerns.
I think the big question is, what are you going to do that's going to change it?
That's going
That's
to change.
segueing into, yeah, our next discussion of what, yep,
I mean,
concept plan.
It's existing, and then what changes are going to happen? Is the building going to go?
Well, do you want to close on the ANRAD and then get
Let's
into,
close on
Asking
into that? But
questions.
because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have the next piece of
Let's
it.
close on
Right.
the INRAD.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion? Well, everybody speak up at once.
I'll make a motion to close the end.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those
Actually,
in
close
fa-
and approve.
Close and approve.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, can I get this?
Now the fun stuff.
Oh, I figured.
Can I be your Vanna White? No?
So, we wanted to be on the discussion informally, so that we could really discuss what's going on in terms of development before we fully engineer the site, file with planning board, file with conservation. Essentially, we have an existing order of conditions, and what we're doing to the out parcel is we're just kind of reshaping it. It was a mixed-use pad site with, I think, 7,000 square feet of building. We're now going down to a 2,000 square foot bank. Workers is going to create kind of a loan servicing center there, and then restrict the rest of the development to just parking. Underlying zoning is industrial, so these are allowed uses, and there's some specific site constraints with respect to that, one of them being front yard setbacks. If you go to the planning board for reduced yards, it was already granted on this parcel, and we're going to be looking for granting on that. It's in aquifer protection, so we have a 30% impervious ratio that we have to maintain. This was approved at 18%. This is existing at 38.7%. So what we see here is in compliance with the aquifer protection, such that the entire impervious of the site is at or just below what's existing and approved out there. So it was a little challenging to figure out site geometry and to introduce parking to the degree that we needed to for the building expansion. Now, when we're looking at this piece here, the existing footprint of the building falls within the brown box. Workers is looking to relocate their headquarters from Fitchburg to the town of Littleton. So this is going from a 43,000 square foot building to a 60,000 square foot building. And they're anticipated to basically build it and then grow into it over the course of the next few years. And they're going to relocate all their existing staff and then begin to staff up and hire more. So one of the unique features on this site is with respect to the fact that there are no stormwater controls whatsoever. There's 2 catch basins in the existing pavement with pipes that go straight into the wetlands. There's a pipe coming out of the building going straight into the wetlands. There is existing pavement within the 50-foot buffer. And what we're basically trying to do is we're trying to improve the existing condition, improve what is happening to stormwater runoff currently, to be able to pull impervious areas, generally speaking, further away from the wetlands and create some restoration within that 50-foot no disturb. So we'll be introducing full stormwater management compliance. There'll be an underground system here. They'll take the roof runoff and treat parking lot runoff before discharging to the wetlands. Here will be an infiltration basin. We're introducing some land bank parking spaces that we feel is going to be required at some point, but not to the degree that we need to really just pave more than we need to. The loading dock is proposed to be grass paved. So generally speaking, we're taking the existing edge of pavement, we're reconfiguring the geometry of the parking lot to make it more efficient and pull it away from the wetlands and then vegetate this area in here. Now, one small section of the building is expanding within the 50-foot buffer. It's the way that the shape of the building works. They're trying to save steel in here, and it's the footprint that workers need. They need 60,000 square feet to make this site viable for the relocation of their corporate headquarters. Now, we've had quite a few conversations with different town departments. We've talked to Marin, we've talked to Keith. Doug DeShane, who unfortunately was not available this evening as counsel for the applicant on this project. He reached out to town council to understand the wording of the local bylaw, to understand what would qualify for a waiver, if there's a mechanism to be able to get from design through permitting and then be able to actually construct this. And I don't know, Amy, if you had any insight with your conversations with town council, but it's my understanding that he is generally in support of this type of project where you're reducing impacts within that 50-foot no disturb. It's not virgin buffer zone by any stretch. It's manicured lawn. And there's a net reduction of 2,600 square feet of impervious within the 50-foot no disturb. So yes, we're adding a little bit, but we're taking a lot more out of it. Again, probably one of the biggest net benefits is going to be introducing stormwater management controls. Right now, with it being completely unmitigated and going directly into the wetlands, there's no treatment. You know, we're introducing that treatment. We're going to be sizing the underground system, the infiltration basin, to get full groundwater recharge for Class A soils across the site, which is required by DEP, but it's also the reason why there was an aquifer protection district to begin with, to make sure that the impervious, that you could still get runoff into the ground, and that's what we're doing with this project. So what we're looking for from tonight is an opinion or guidance that we're going about this the right way, that we're applying our design that meets the intent of the bylaw, of that 50-foot no disturb, and we're giving the commission, or at least proposing something that is palatable, can get us from point A through construction and be able to enhance the resource area. There is a vegetation maintenance plan that's associated with this order of conditions: invasive eradication, maintaining the field, and as a part of the notice of intent on this piece, we'd be looking to expand that and encompass the entirety of the wetlands, because there are invasives throughout here. And I guess there's actually one small piece that I haven't touched on yet, is Workers is going to be looking for a view shed from 495. And we're going to be applying to DOT to basically do some vista pruning within the 495 layout. If you're familiar with the site and you drive south down 495, you can see the building. You drive north, you can't see the building. So Workers really selected this parcel for the visibility, to be able to put their, national corporate headquarters here and be able to get the exposure that they want. It's a major driver for them coming here to Littleton, and we just want to put everything that we're proposing, all of our wants, generally speaking, on the table, so we can get some feedback and Workers can make the decision, is this site right? Are we going to be able to get, are they going to be able to get what they need to be able to relocate the corporate headquarters? So, in summary, in compliance with aquifer protection, bringing the site into compliance with stormwater management. It's a net reduction of impervious areas within the 50 of not an insubstantial number. We're proposing pervious surfaces and alternative pavements in areas that we feel are beneficial, and they also happen to be areas that are closer to the wetlands than the existing pavement line. And we're going to want to develop and modify the existing vegetated maintenance plan to encompass both parcels, and as a part of that, invasive eradication and some vista pruning will be associated with that. I don't know if there's anything else that the team would like to offer in addition to that, but we're here. We certainly want to start this discussion now before we're formally before the planning board, before we're formally before you with a notice of intent, and to allow Workers to make the call if this site is actually going to work for them.
Is there any way to stay out of the 50-foot no disturb?
No. We can't get the building to what Workers needs to make that happen. But again, we looked at the
What
site,
piece of it is?
so this section.
How
right
wide is
here,
that strip?
Call it 15 feet, narrowing down to maybe 8 feet. It's basically taking the back edge of the building and squaring it up, and where you see this bump out, that's going to be the tower element for the Workers signage for the 495 view shed. And I would like to highlight this red area is existing pavement that is within the 50 that we're totally removing. And then from the 50 to 100, it's not highlighted, but this whole section will be grassed as well. I mean, there's a pretty substantial reduction of impervious areas net within the buffer zone, within the 50-foot, and then maintaining essentially.
Any reason they couldn't put their signage up on top of the building?
It's on the building, on a tower element of the building. So that, if they were to tweak the shape of the building itself, it's not giving them what they need. for
And
floor
it's
plan,
not
for
the sign per
square
se, it's
footage.
the occupancy space
It's the
inside the
footprint,
building. It's not.
Exactly.
It's not just structural to put the sign, it's occupancy space.
Is this existing parking?
Yep. It's
Yep,
existing
that's all.
drive aisle right now. So,
Existing what?
drive aisle, yeah, it's pavement, it's parking.
In your snow removal storage area, is it?
We can certainly store snow outside of the 50 and away from the wetlands. I think we're gonna end up having to do a lot of the snow storage here. And as we all know, if snow storage becomes a problem, it gets carted off-site. So we would certainly be looking for conditions of something like that, to restrict storage along the wetlands.
No, but I'm just asking, is that snow storage now?
Presently?
I would imagine it is, yeah. I bet the whole site gets plowed like this.
And there's a catch basin right in there, too.
There's one catch basin, basically in this location here, and there's one catch basin in the entirety of the parking lot. It's just
Where's the
discharge.
septic system currently?
Septic system is right here, under the
Under
parking,
the property?
under the existing,
Is
parking
that
lot.
something that's going to be replaced now?
So we're looking at a septic system expansion. Yes, we've been told that there's potential sewer at some point during our meeting with Keith, but obviously.
dream too much.
For that.
Don't
We're-
think,
We're looking to start construction, first thing next year is when the winter breaks. So in all likelihood, and it's pretty much a certainty, that this is just going to be expanded.
The study's
Yeah.
still
Or
ongoing.
expanded where?
So right now, it's a pressure dose system with basically a butterfly configuration, so there's a manifold. Think of a big rectangle with a pipe down the middle of it, with laterals going this way. We're going to basically just expand off the end of it, swap out some tanks for larger tanks, and hopefully reuse pumps if we can. And then this bank has a permanent septic system on this lot. We'll be looking to just shrink that down, so it'll have its own independent system. And that's, I believe, already been approved.
So these areas that you're calling the impervious area, or pervious, what are you calling them?
These are grass paved, so
Grass
we've,
paved,
so
that's within the 50s here.
is the dark line, yep.
So this will be within the 50?
And it's
too?
existing paved right now. So there's parking right here, you can see the car, kinda. Basically,
That's already paved?
it's already paved, this loading dock is already paved. Everything that
There's
we're
no-
doing is within or further away from the wetlands, with the exception of a small section building.
Is there any reason why the square footage can't just be extended out the building and built into right there?
So, again, what's presented here is the functional space that workers feels they need. And it's in the footprint and to work with existing structure within the building and the gross square footage that they need. We can certainly look at it. It's doubtful that the footprint would change. And
But is
if,
this border, this line right here, my understanding was this is the old footprint.
yep, the gray is the old and that is the
So this
new.
would be new. So is it possible that this could come out? This square footage could be put to the end of the building?
Can I answer that question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when we looked at the different configurations, one of the challenges is if the building comes forward, we're not able to park, we're not able to achieve sufficient parking for the employees. So when the building gets extended this way, you can accommodate and still accommodate the parking rows up front and meet the parking needs for the employees.
So, but coming out over here,
Like,
So just
she,
taking
uh,
this strip
take-
and sticking
take
it
the
here.
existing, it would still be, I mean, I don't know exactly how geometry would work. They basically, it's just saying trade it to
So
that.
one of the architectural challenges, and I wish we had a picture of the as-is condition, today, it's gonna be hard to explain, but this roof actually cuts back at an angle. So one of the things that Workers wants to do is to create a corporate image, and create a building with this type of image, rather than the dated property that exists today.
Kind of see
So
it
that
right there.
existing building will
Yeah,
be coming
no,
down?
I know the building.
It's basically gonna be taken down to steel and concrete, so this entire exterior skin's gonna be removed.
And the existing goes up to here, is that right?
So what happens here is the
Mhm.
building jogs back to about this
Yep.
point, and to here,
Yeah.
to about there.
Yeah, I can see those guys, they can use just right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you bring the you've got some area up here to work with.
So this is by zoning, a 50-foot landscape buffer. So we have to maintain this because we have residential
Oh, you have to
zone.
you have to maintain
Yeah.
50 foot off
Yep.
Russell Street?
Off Russell Street. And as a part of this, we're actually setting up an abutters meeting. I don't know if the notice has gone out yet, but I believe it's for next week to engage all of the neighbors and to figure out exactly what concerns are and if there are steps that we
Their
can take.
concerns are speeders.
Speeders.
If you can fix that, you've.
You've
or,
used half
no, I'm not.
their
Is it?
complaints, yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yep. But that.
Well, they have the
that's-
light at the end of Russell Street now.
And sidewalks going in,
Yeah.
right now.
Speed bumps are a good thing for speeders.
And great for snowplows.
I know.
All you can do,
Is,
mobile.
Rumble strips.
as far as deliveries, do you know, like, how often you
They don't.
anticipate deliveries at all?
So the loading
So I'm a
dock,
little concerned about typically the loading dock is where you're gonna have your, most of your mishaps with trucks versus employee vehicles. So just kind of speaking to that, that would be,
so one of the reasons why we anticipated that being an ideal location for a grass paved product was because it's an office building. They don't get deliveries. The only time that the loading dock is anticipated to be used is when they move in, essentially. There is trash over there, but that would be, a trash truck.
so it'd be like, more like a UPS, FedEx, WB Mason,
WB.
like
Yeah,
that.
Exactly,
that type of thing
and they're going
versus-
through the front
And I
door.
do understand it is an office building. It's just a question I had,
Mhm.
is it's,
Current headquarters doesn't have a loading dock.
Yeah.
Everything comes in through the front door.
would you have one if it wasn't there already?
No, I don't think so. Was there discussion of,
Only for building resale, but they wouldn't necessarily program it for their own use, no.
Just stick with this over there.
so we're 50, I mean, we can certainly look at the building
Yeah.
footprint, but what
And I
we're
appreciate
trying.
the architecture, it's, looks very nicely designed.
Mhm.
It's very,
Um,
nice looking.
I guess we're looking at kind of a worst case. This is what we're proposing, and really are trying to get the temperature on whether, this
Yeah.
is something that could ultimately be approved, with the language of the bylaw the way that it is right now. Again, I want to focus on the fact that we're introducing
I
a
think we're-
non-compliant site.
With some of the other board members, it would be a pretty hard sell.
Yeah.
Well, and I did ask this, one of the
Right.
projects that I brought up without naming it 2 weeks ago, about
I was wondering
public
about that.
interest and improved conditions. And I guess Doug did talk to Chris Heap, and I talked to Rebecca Lacy, both at town council, and Rebecca said that she thinks it's reasonable to adopt a policy along those lines, that, improved environmental conditions is a public interest, but suggested you don't go too far down the road doing this, night after night without making a change to the regulations. If anybody wants to see, that's what she actually
Okay.
said, but.
What would this be restored to?
That's what I remember from,
Grass, we would grass it.
Grass.
We could certainly talk about letting it naturalize. I mean, this is a section that's further away from the building. It's obviously got a natural buffer on this side. It may
maybe
make
with some
sense.
fertilizers or something,
Yeah.
just being so close to it.
Yeah, there's several things that can be
Yeah.
in an order of conditions in perpetuity.
Mhm.
Amy, do we have a mechanism right now because I thought we had the discussion from a couple weeks ago. was-
For,
Interpretation was we didn't really have,
I was been looking at these in two different ways. There's a section in here somewhere about previous work, existing structures, work associated with pre-existing structures, not presently in compliance, may not increase the degree of nonconformance. Now, of course, that was never defined. What is an increase in nonconformance?
so if you have like a net wash or a
Yeah,
net
so
decrease.
that might be one avenue, and I think something like this, or partly, it makes more sense maybe to consider this a public interest, that, if
Improving.
you're agreeable, they're going to manage stormwater vegetation management, reducing impervious, whatever else. So potentially, you could see it as a public interest. And I think going forward, you might want to be a little more definitive about what a public interest could be.
Then you also have a big sign going up.
Exactly,
So
so,
is that in the public interest?
exactly. I know that's where you need to make your decisions. And, the vista pruning, you got a
Now,
building.
tell me more about the Vista
Yeah, is that
pruning.
like over here?
Now, that's in the
That's a
495
DOT.
right away, out of Littleton's jurisdiction?
So might be a combination of both.
It's in your jurisdiction.
you-
What's that?
It's in your jurisdiction.
Yeah, you know,
So, yeah, so the 495, you can kind of see the dark line right here. They're basically,
It's off Trophy Road.
we can see, yeah, we'd be filing with DOT
It would have
to
to
get
be a
permission.
filing. If DOT,
Separate filing.
if DOT was doing it for their purposes, they would still need to potentially file notice of intent, but they would not be subject to the local bylaw. But presumably, you guys are probably doing the filing for the off-site work, so it'd probably just be all part of the same filing. They would just need approval from DOT to sign off on the notice of intent and get the work done.
So right now, basically, we can see the building heading south here. We'd be looking to do some selective cutting and trimming to get some kind of a view shed from heading north, which is generally in this area.
That's wetland.
We
some-
would,
yep.
Some of it is.
And there's no block in the center, the median between
no.
southbound and northbound, it's clear there?
Yeah, you can see it.
I just don't recall. I know
Yeah.
you guys have looked at it.
You're doing 70, you can kind of see where the building is heading north,
Oh, I'm
but
doing 70 by then, 'cause I live here.
I
But
think that's
enough
a
for
hard,
them.
I personally, I think that's a hard sell.
So,
I'd
is
have
there-
to- I'd
Yeah,
have-
I mean,
I'd
what's
have to-
out here?
I'd have to look at it more,
Mhm.
just off the cuff of what you're describing.
Sure.
I mean, is
Would it be just
how
topping the
much?
trees a
What
little
I,
bit?
Yeah, like
yeah.
how much?
What I-
Oh, what's that? Killing the tree from the
Not
front?
necessarily.
There's a combination. There's several management strategies or options out here. This was, I've worked on similar projects in Norton where I worked on an actual ropes course where they were looking to clear trees within a wetland and convert it with a restoration plan for the lower canopy. Where with either tree clearing or vista pruning, it's not necessarily that there's ground disturbance, it's a change in vegetation class. So it's, I think our management strategy would be to do select pruning and clearing of the vista in here to the maximum extent practicable. There may be opportunities for some, if you're an arborist out there, to look at some of these trees that are in poor health, to actually lop some of them off and create stags for wildlife habitat. Stags are good for cavity nesters. You have eastern flying squirrels, woodpeckers, cavity nesters, eastern screech owl, love cavities. There would be the opportunity for, if we were to take some of the trees down, to plant low-lying shrubs that won't impact the view shed that would be needed from the 495 corridor, but would give you understory shade that would,
yeah, what we don't want to represent is, we don't want to say that we're going to clear cut this.
right.
In its entirety, basically, from wherever you can see the building on 495 to the off-ramp. It's going to be a restricted area that will allow that signage to get, to be viewed.
Yeah, we wouldn't be looking for carte blanche to clear
Correct.
trees without a mitigation and management plan
Yep.
that,
We were
For-
a fellow came in here looking to clear some trees in his backyard because he had solar panels on his roof. And he was tracking the power every day and he wasn't getting
he was getting
power he
shade
needed
cast
because he got
on
some
his.
shade.
Yeah,
And I gotta tell you, we're really very, very tough on him. We eventually did allow some tree cutting.
And that was
in
before the
area.
bylaw.
That was before the bylaw, but it was very extremely
Sure.
selective, and this is a homeowner
right.
who's also trying to do something good and get some more power to the grid, you know?
So I think we
I
could,
just want to let you know where we're coming from.
Mhm.
from
No,
a-
that's
from a
fair enough. Part of this-
baseline,
right.
Because
Yeah.
that's what we need to think about as we make these decisions, is that how we treated one person before a bylaw and how we look in another situation after.
I think a part, I think a part of
Bring
the,
this to a close. We've got other people to hear,
You should-
preferably you again.
So, I think what we're saying is that I've got personally, I haven't heard from any of the board members, I have concerns about the view shed. I'd have to learn more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
we need more
the building, I
information,
think
for
you'd
sure.
like it to take a second look at trying to get it out of the 50, if possible. Everybody agree or
Yeah,
disagree? Or
no, I agree. We realize that's not ideal, but
Yeah.
if you could look at it.
And we can, it can be
Alternate
something that we,
analysis or something
that
of
we
that
can
nature.
look at.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if this building ends up, generally speaking, still within the 50, is that something that is still providing a net benefit? I mean, we have a significant
Right.
reduction of paved areas.
I think it depends on what the net benefit is. I think if this parking space is brought back to mowed grass, that doesn't do much for me.
If it's brought back to naturalized vegetation, it's that more beneficial.
Or more beneficial maybe to the floodwaters that go up there. Because I'm sure those spaces get wet.
I mean, the elevation on
So if
this
their water
is
rises
218
pretty
and
quick,
this
yeah.
is 212, so it's 6 foot elevation change right now.
Mhm.
That's a lot of
That's a
water.
lot of water.
I'm pretty confident
That's a
that
lot
it's
of
not
water.
in there.
No, if the ground's frozen.
I mean, I've seen water back
Yeah.
there. I mean, it's not necessarily in that lot, but
In the
that site,
field.
that site gets a lot of water coming up.
Well, we've got to move along, so
So I guess just for the point of clarification, is there a mechanism that the commission has available that would allow a project or something very similar to this project to be ultimately approved?
I
Well, I think
kind of
Amy
think
read.
not. Amy?
I think Amy-
Well, no, I
Public interest.
believe that the town council said that if the commission, wants to go that way, this could be considered a public interest. Obviously, you need to weigh,
But she also.
or they just get lawn, you get, how far do you have to go?
Right, but I
And
also
it would be a
heard
high bar.
that you're making these, where do you stop making these decisions?
Yeah.
Right.
So I also heard that in
Right.
that discussion. So,
So it sounds like there is a mechanism, but it's a pretty high bar. That's kind of what I'm hearing.
And she basically suggested, and I don't know if Chris Heap said, I assume they talked to each other, said the same thing to Doug, that it sounded reasonable to use a public interest test for something like this, that it would be better, rather than just relying on that for the next 10 years, is put something into the regulations, spelling out, what the bar is for a public interest.
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
so I guess that's as good as we can give you. I know you want more, but that's as far as we're going.
No, understood. Thank you.
Oh, we're going right into the turkey? All right, okay, all right.
I believe.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. So good
Amy, do you want,
evening
this is
again.
the handout here, you want these for administrative recommendation? No.
Pass it down.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
So, for the record, Bernadette Botanical Associates along with Dan Kell, for Turkey Farm Estates. An update on the site, status quo on infiltration basins, I believe 3, which is the one, recall is the one that had standing water and has approved reconstruction plan. That reconstruction has not happened yet. I believe still waiting for it to dry out a little bit more. Dewatering has stopped. Elevation hasn't changed. from when we stopped. Infiltration basin 4, behind lot 12, is still dry. And we had a site walk last week to discuss the NOI plans and the new proposed kind of septic system grading, limit of work on 23, 24, driveway locations, things of that nature. And these updated plans reflect the request to show decks, and also we tweaked some of the post locations on 23 and 24 to basically put them where they were proposed previously, and allow the breakout grading of the septic systems to be naturalized vegetation and not maintained lawn. And those are the changes to the NOI exhibit plans.
Did you mention the farm pond? That's not part of this discussion.
We can dive into that next, because Dave went out there and assessed vegetation.
I'm prepared to speak to that. What's that?
Very
Right into
interesting.
it.
Are we gonna get into it now, or let's discuss more?
I'm not sure that we were.
Wait, you want to finish off the houses first?
Finish the houses first.
So where are the signage things changing?
Which lots? On, so 15, they're being maintained. 22, they're being maintained. On 23, they are being shifted to the edge of the newly proposed tree line. So they're moving further away from the wetland than the approved locations. The approved locations are in gray. The dark black ones are the proposed. And we had markers at the rock wall previously at the rear property line. We moved that up to basically the shoulder of the septic system grading to allow that slope, it's 3-to-1 slope, to just be naturalized. On lot 24, the same thing happened. We moved them to, generally speaking, the old, the approved limit of work line to allow those slopes to be naturalized. And then 25 and 20.
Wait, 24, they're not changing, right?
No, 24, they're being shifted slightly, but they're generally in the same as where they were approved originally. And then 25 and 26 are staying the same.
So I think I heard it, so the yellow is the proposed?
Nope, yellow is what was approved in 2016, orange is what is proposed, and the two blue lines are the 100-foot and the wetland. So we want to do the orange,
You want to do the orange?
we would like to, and then the yellow is what was a part of the original exhibit.
And these net reductions, is that impervious or disturbance?
It's net reductions of impervious.
So for all of them, right?
Yep, it's a reduction.
Brian, you could clarify, Eddie, this, so it looks like. there are
That
two
is the
decks
old
here.
deck with
Okay.
yeah, there's no yellow on
That's
that,
what
so that's the old one, this is the new one
Okay,
right
so the
there.
empty, that's what I was thinking, the empty boxes are new decks, and the boxes with decks are the old ones. Thank you. All right, Lot 23 was, Anna and Amy and I went out last week, and Lot 23 was the one that I had been most concerned about, because it was the largest shift, and it basically is saving a pretty good stand of trees, and, isn't making a big difference as far as, impacting resources.
The distance from the wetland has it increased in all of these?
I believe there was a net, either a maintaining or a net increase. We tried to kind of hold the building closest to the wetlands or move it further away from what was proposed. Lot
Or
20.
further away, clearly.
Yeah, lot 22, it looks like the building tweaked a little bit
I
closer.
couldn't tell. Looks like it's further away.
It's corner sort of
Yeah,
down the line.
the garage corner, moved a couple of feet, so it was 43 feet previously, and now, it's shifted a little bit to 41.
Yeah.
But on 15's further away, and we're totally out of the buffer on 24. 23 is significantly further away. And held the same distance on 26. Or actually 2 feet further away.
Did you shorten any of the driveways? Yeah, that's something Anna had asked about.
They had side load driveways before, so the garage doors were not facing the street, they're facing, the side yard essentially, and now they're front loading, driveways, or garages, so they are facing the street.
Mm-hmm. That makes a difference.
And the septics are out front?
It depends on the lot. Generally speaking, we tried to maintain them in the front. The two that were not were 23 and 24, and it's just how soil testing worked out with the existing hill that's out there. So we had to put them in the backyards.
So I guess the question is, would you want to approve these as minor modifications or not?
What's your opinion?
That's a net increase?
It seems like a net,
Decrease.
net decrease.
Excuse me, decrease in
Yeah.
impervious.
It seems like a net benefit. They're generally further away,
That's all I look
net
at.
decrease in impervious. I think the overall area that's his conservation land has gotten bigger.
Yeah. That's how I look at it. So, I guess I would support.
You want to make a motion to that? All lots, or one at a time, or?
Can we do all lots?
I think you can do it all at once.
So, let's see, what am I proposing? Make sure I get the wording right.
You could move to accept the changes to lots 15, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, I think the right list, as minor modifications, requiring no further submissions.
A second.
You can say so moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So the next piece of discussion for this evening is with respect to Dave's assessment of open space E. Now that the water is receded and not returned to any flooded condition, he went out there and took a look.
Yeah, I can give you guys, so this past week, I went and spent some time out there doing sort of a biological assessment of the post-dewatering condition out there. I prepared these memos, I drafted this on Friday for intent to submit. I don't anticipate that you guys will read these. I only printed up 4, figuring every second person could have some. Less so than the memo, there are some accompanying photo pages. So what I found, and this isn't surprising, is as the water receded, is that most of the area was previously vegetated with grasses and herbaceous forbs. And there's a significant dieback right now. In the present condition, there might be 20 to 30% emergent vegetative cover coming in as new grass. That said, all hope is not lost. It's despite the fact that it died back while it was saturated. I have no reason to think that this will not revegetate on its own. We can certainly help it along. One of the things that I noted out there was that there was not a significant amount of sediment deposition at the surface. Sometimes when you have areas that are saturated like that, especially if you have fine sediments floating in turbid suspension, when that water comes down, you get sediment deposition at the surface. It looks like sediment deposition, but what it is there was actually sort of an algae. This is probably the best photograph that's indicative of it. There's no sediment deposition, but all of it is, they're algal mats where there was an algae that was growing in the pond, and as it receded, now you have this thin film of dead algae at the surface. This doesn't have anything to do with the ecological restoration ramifications. However, I am working with Joe to look into whether or not algae was one of the contributing factors to inhibiting that area from draining, whether or not these algal mats were prohibitive to it draining. That's for a subject of another time as we resolve the drainage issues. But in terms of restoration, it's not necessarily a detrimental thing. The algal mats are high in nutrient content. Oftentimes, if you do apply a seed mix, you would apply a thin straw mulch to retain moisture for seed germination, and that's effectively what these algal mats will do. I did note that you can see from this photograph that where the high water mark was, where these slopes are now densely vegetated, all that vegetation is emergent cattail, which now that the water is drawn back, it's foreseeable that all that cattail is now going to die back. In terms of management strategies, it's worth discussion. Right now, it's providing stabilization to those effects, to the slopes. However, they are going to die back. At some point, whether or not we do it this fall, this season, or we consider it next spring, is that I would think that they would want to clear the cattail out and actually plant a seed mix that is appropriate for drier conditions now that the arc has come back to earth and the plants and animals are returning. We'll want to look for some sort of stabilizing mix. So that's one of the things I was toying around with, whether or not we cut it this season and try to reseed it. In terms of revegetating the bare areas in the center of this, one of the management recommendations I have is if you wanted to establish, first of all, by the low-lying nature of this area as a depression, there's not a lot of threat of erosion and sediment condition because it is the bottom of the bowl. So if you did have a rain event, or even if it were to lay in this condition over winter and you have a heavy snowfall and come next fall in April, or next March and April, you have a high snow melt and you have a lot of water content, I don't see a lot of this migrating. I don't see erosion channels or anything forming that you would really want to stabilize if it were on a slope with vegetative cover. That said, if you did want to put down some seed mix this year, I would recommend winter rye, which is it's a very common late season mix that if you did apply it at this time of year, it would come in and you would get some germination, I would anticipate, and some vegetated cover in August and October as you lead into the winter. However, if you did want to revegetate this, as I imagine we would want to do with native grasses, there are some warm season grass mixes that are available from New England Wetland Plants that are appropriate for being seeded in the springtime, in April or May. And that would require coming back. If we were to put the winter rye down now, they would have to come back and they would have to till it a bit to re-stratify the soils in order to make it appropriate for another seed mix, and then we would come in and put it in with a winter seed mix. I did look at all the shrubs around the farm pond and the trees. Most of them are exhibiting signs of stress, as you would imagine, but I didn't see any outright mortality. And I think it's a little premature to make a decision on it at this time as to whether or not to remove any of these trees and spec them out for replacement. My suggestion or recommendation would be, again, performing a monitoring visit next late May, early June, during the early growing season to see how well they've recovered and how many of these are coming back vegetatively. And if at that time any of these appear to be suffering from, remnant stress from this flooding period, that we would make a management decision at that time whether or not to remove them and propose suitable replacement shrubs or small trees that we would put in around there.
My thought is if you don't correct the drainage issue there.
So right now, we
Yep,
have.
that's germane, absolutely.
So we're going through that process right now. GeoInsight was hired by Dave to do a secondary peer review of the drainage and look at this specific area that was decided last week. I believe that the RFP was revised and came back, so as soon as that's funded, that's going to happen as a part of whatever our long-term corrective action is. It's going to be proposed and subsequently reviewed by them, and then obviously brought into the into this conversation. We just don't have that quite yet.
You're running out of time.
We're so there's a couple of pieces that are moving in parallel for the drainage correction, and we've gone out there, we've assessed the vegetation, which obviously we can talk about, and we are talking about right now. We've sent our surveyors out and they've collected topography. We now need to generate calculations to size the pipe and put that on a sketch. That sketch will be submitted to you guys. It will be submitted to the planning board. It's going to be submitted to Green International. It's going to be submitted to GeoInsight. And then when that's reviewed by everybody, we'll have a consensus on exactly what we're proposing to do. Right now, I don't think it's changed from what we've put out there on the plan. We proposed a 6-inch pipe at the historic elevation in the location of the existing catch basins, generally speaking. That's what we're going to propose. We
So-
just need to make sure that the pipe sizing is at the correct elevation and it's of the correct size to convey any kind of flooding.
So the watering stop, we're back to
Mm-hmm.
the original elevation. Now, part of this, you were gonna do an investigation as to why the water started to go up in the first place.
So we've
So I'm
done that.
wondering if has that been done? Is there a report I can read on that?
Yeah, we've already submitted that. We submitted that back
Why-
in June.
No, when you dewatered, now you're supposed to
Mhm.
look, investigate.
So what-
What could potentially have caused that?
The only
increase in water?
difference that we've seen from our original assumptions is the fact that it wasn't sediment disposition, that it was
It was.
potentially algae that was limiting the infiltration of water into the area.
Well, and not
Yeah.
having sediment deposition at all, so in Basin 3, it was clearly silted in, there's clearly a lot of deposition runoff from the adjacent roadways. At the farm pond, I actually find this really interesting that it's algal mats and there isn't sediment deposition there, which says to me, your water is coming from whatever is falling in this area, and perhaps that network of, drainage lines coming up to that, piece of concrete infrastructure that we briefly discussed the other day. I mean, if that was runoff, so that kind of, I really think you need to look into that. I mean,
So
Well, that
we're
was the
still,
plan.
we're still of the same opinion that that was irrigation. It doesn't daylight anywhere. It's a
mean, can you
It's cinder blocks.
stick some cameras in it?
I mean, we can.
And figure out
we
how
can-
far they go? I mean, there's,
To basically,
technology to
to
do
what
that.
end, and what are we gonna find out about that? We have a
Well, you
six
tell us,
inch
because that was the
pipe.
original
yeah.
proposal, that you
Right.
said, once
So
you
all
dewatered,
the-
you would investigate where the water was coming from. I'm
And
not
right-
hearing that that investigation's been done.
well, if you have like a starburst of pipes coming in that are 10 inches in diameter, that's a very different story
Correct.
from, there's 2 pipes and one of them's clay and it's collapsed and, so those are 2 very different stories. And so it might get you to your end point a lot quicker to be able to get some sort of handle on where it's coming from and the volume that's being contributed. Because once you're gone, the homeowners aren't gonna,
Right.
chip in for a bunch of garden hoses and submersible pumps, you know what I mean? Like, and that
And that's what we're
They may
trying
not
to do,
get-
is we're
they
trying
may
to
not
come
get
to a
the waterfront-
consensus
do it
to
either.
solve,
waterfront property and wet basements. and-
solve that problem.
Yep.
That's the parallel that we're running through right now. The documentation that we've already submitted is gonna be looked at, and commented on to see if it's
So your
reasonable.
hypothesis is the same?
I
that
haven't
what you're-
seen anything that leads us to believe that it was incorrect. The only difference would be that sediment disposition that we had assumed was in there.
Always.
that
Should
it
check out
wasn't.
that report again.
It's not in there, though, sediment. Is the sediment in there?
In that area,
Mm.
I mean, we didn't see,
What's a new condition?
yeah, we haven't seen, a large amount of sediment.
There's not much
Yeah,
in there.
it was what
You
Dave
probably
had classified.
dig a couple test holes just to make sure you don't see it in the profile. But the algal mat was pretty crunchy.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if that's going to stop groundwater
No.
infiltration.
It's porous. I mean, water will go through.
Do we have any more further discussion on this for the
No.
time being?
So
other
did you
than-
want to at least see more detail on what that structure is?
Well,
pipes coming in, the
I would
size,
just-
We have the-
I need
the
more
inverts.
information. Now that we've finished the dewatering, we need to go to step 2, whatever that was in their plan.
Okay.
I think step 2 said something about investigating.
Right, I mean, we need more
Never got there
information,
yet.
we
I'm
kind of
waiting for
have
that.
similar questions, so,
Personally, I think a 6-inch pipe is on the small side for discharge. I would rather see something put in and maybe some sort of a control
The control
that you
circuit.
could limit or open up as needed.
Yeah, I would say just be careful, because I'm not too familiar with GeoInsight, that the engineering solution to this might be different than the environmental solution to this. So, yes, the invert might be set the same way, but 6 inches might not do it. It might need to be a
And those are-
box, or, I mean,
And
weirs.
those are the calculations that we're generating,
Yeah.
that are gonna be peer reviewed, so that we're on.
How much of the water from the pond do you think actually leached back into the ground? And how much of it did you discharge?
We pumped it all the way down.
So there's nothing that leached back into the ground to
It,
speak of?
in that specific area, when we dewatered from whatever elevation it was at, which was, I think, 65.6, 265.6, and we got it down to 262, so that volume of water was discharged.
There's no way they could answer that question,
Well-
because they were dewatering at the same time. They wouldn't know that.
Well, the water, when it was full,
Wasn't.
The water
Wasn't
level-
going away either.
kinda
water level did go down a little
bouncing.
bit by itself.
Yeah.
But it
It
certainly
It
came
would
up
raining,
rain,
too.
and then it went up, and then it would go down a little bit, and then it rained, and it went up.
So it's sort of a
So-
trapped wetland. Or a
What's that?
trapped, it's a trapped irrigation pond, basically. If it didn't move up or down until you dewatered it. So it's not leaching off, basically.
We don't know
Does that mean
what,
it's a pond?
Yeah, I mean, it's just not moving.
generally speaking, it was maintaining that level.
Yeah.
Until we dewatered it.
Yeah, so you've got to do something with the preventive to keep that from filling up.
Which is our overflow pipe, that again, we'll develop calculations and submit that to the commission.
your calculations are
go
gonna
through.
be on your assumptions on how much water is coming in or how much water you're dealing with. So we need to get a good handle on, right?
Yep,
that
so, yep,
assumption is.
essentially, we have the subcatchment broken out. We're gonna run it through our hydrologic model to figure how much water is generated
Does your-
in the 2-year, in the 10-year, and the 100-year return frequency event. We'll understand what size the pipe's going to be and how long during each one of those storms the area will take to dewater.
Can you also model
But that
this?
ignores groundwater inputs.
Correct?
Yeah, that's, and so I guess, yeah, I mean, that kind of gets to what I was, sort of where I was going was, like, what if you modeled the actual conditions that existed between like March and now? You know, I mean, would that be an exercise worth doing, or have you done
So
it,
we-
and how does it
if
match
you
with
look
what
at-
actually occurred?
Yep, if you look at the memo that we had already done, we kind of generated how much rainfall we had, where the water level was at, the amount of volume it corresponded
It was in
to.
May? The May one? Alright,
elevation,
I'll take
yeah.
a look at it again. Okay.
We've looked at that.
Okay.
And the outcome?
Got
so
it.
it-
Was generally speaking
So
that
it
rain,
matched.
rain corresponded to the volume with respect to the contributory area.
I think you've got
There's some
enough
runoff.
stuff to do and come back to us. We've got to move on. We've got other people here to listen to tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Long trip tonight.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Oh, the,
Yeah, the further vegetation is observation for.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Public hearing notice of intent, 10 Fort Pond, U 27-18-0, 204-8XX, construction of driveway through an isolated land subject to flooding. Who wants to speak to this one?
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Carr from Stamsey McNary. I'm here presenting the project at 10 Fort Pond Lane, portions of which are both in Littleton and Acton. This is the town line here, Acton over here, which is where the proposed house will be, outside a resource area. And this is the portion within Littleton. There is frontage on Fort Pond Lane way over here, and this is Sarah Indian Way over here. So we had gone through many iterations of how to get access to the upland for the house here. We considered coming in from Fort Pond Lane, but there is a large bordering vegetated wetland right behind the house at 10 Fort Pond Lane. We did consider getting an easement from the neighbor at 7 Sarah Indian Way in order to avoid crossing resource areas to get to the upland. But after looking further into it, the neighbor decided it wasn't in his best options, so.
It was the neighbor that would have needed to refinance, not the applicant?
Right.
Okay.
And so, yep, so we think this is our best option, coming off of Sarah Indian Way here and hugging this, what is this, the westerly lot line here, which I've outlined the isolated land subject to flooding in blue here. And you can see that it's the thinnest point on the lot is right here. So we're proposing to fill in some isolated land subject to flooding here in order to get to the upland. There was over 300 cubic feet of storage lost with the proposed gravel driveway, and we're proposing to compensate the lost flood storage with some compensatory storage over here, basically digging out a little hole here. It's going to be 1.2 times the cubic feet lost here will be dug out here. So we're increasing the amount of flood storage on the site. I also should mention there's a potential vernal pool here, which we are keeping outside of with the proposed work. And so there will be two 12-inch pipes underneath the proposed gravel driveway to keep the hydraulic connectivity between these two sections of the isolated land subject to flooding. And there is a non-jurisdictional isolated wetland as well. And that's pretty much
What
it.
is the plan for this piece of land?
Just a single-family house,
That has not yet been constructed.
correct.
You're subdividing, is that right?
Yes, there was an A&R plan splitting the lot in half.
So this is a spec house.
What's that?
It's a spec house.
Right.
Is there any access onto that lot right?
There is a house on the Acton portion of the lot over here, and there is a swath of bordering vegetated wetland behind it. And it would be a lot of fill to go from 10 Fort Pond Lane to get to the upland behind it.
So there's already a driveway somewhere to the existing
Correct.
house? And
From Fort Pond
Right.
Lane?
To an existing house, but not to this.
not for this one?
I'm the homeowner, if,
What's
I want
that?
to speak, I could ask Ethan.
Yeah, you can, come on up.
So I have a.
You need to get on the microphone.
So,
What's your role?
I'm the homeowner.
Homeowner of
Property owner.
This land.
Yeah, I own 10 Fort Pond, so it's originally 10 acres with a log cabin that my wife and I live on now, which is right on Fort Pond Road. So you walk on the road, the cabin's right there. So we're proposing to subdivide the lot because the back end we love is on Fort Pond. And we're proposing to build a small 2,000 square foot max house back in the woods.
So leave the existing cabin which you use,
Yeah.
and then build a house in the back.
Yeah, well, we're gonna keep both properties, so we're gonna move into the new house and then just keep the cabin.
So,
It's a 900 square foot, basically one bedroom, one room cabin with kitchen appliances, but nowhere to sit, eat, and kids are gone, but we do want them to come back, so we need a little more space.
who delineated the wetland?
Well, that was Dave Crossman of B&C Associates.
And, Amy, you've been out.
No, we want to look at this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to look at it.
I was just wondering if you had, so,
Yeah, I have some pictures if you want to see too.
determining isolated wetlands is, I guess that's something we would have to double check that line and double check how he made that determination. And make sure that there is no connecting vegetation that would lead to an existing wetland.
And
That is
It
truly-
seems like the vernal pool delineation is only including the vernal pool itself, not the 100 feet of habitat, which is part of the vernal pool. So that's a big issue.
Is this registered with Natural Heritage at this point?
No.
No, it's just a potential.
And so I'm assuming this is the area where the driveway, the proposed driveway.
Yeah, so the driveway would be about right up here, I believe. And you can see that's a white flag there is the potential vernal pool flag right there.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to see this. I'm not sure what we can provide tonight.
Just schedule a site walk, that's all we can do.
I mean, at a bare minimum, besides the fact that the vernal pool habitat's not included on there, there's nothing about the vegetation in the impact area and the proposed area.
Yeah,
How many square feet, what vegetation's being impacted, what vegetation's being put back,
Right, so we,
assuming the crossing's even allowed, so.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
yeah, we were just proposing for a New England wet mix in the compensatory storage area. That was what was
That
currently.
becomes a no disturb.
What's that?
That would fall into this no disturb.
That's only for bordering vegetated wetland, not for isolated land subject to flooding.
Right. Do you know why he determined it was isolated? Do you have any idea?
He couldn't see any hydraulic connection to any other wetland.
That's what we would have to check.
Yeah, there's like a high point here, a high point here, another high point here, so it's not a big drainage
Go up in the
area.
back.
There's an arrow off to the, yeah.
The back looks like is where it could potentially connect.
Yeah, we went out and located where it looked like it would overflow if it were to fill up as much. And it's-
But it looks for the dead trees and stuff, this thing must flood periodically.
Yeah, the map.
Yeah, there's not much vegetation there, so I figured it was underwater at some point.
So you really have to kind of key in on this and try and follow where the wetland connections are, could be potentially.
The flag should be
Existing.
easy to locate, so.
And topo up, even if it's just USGS, some topo up that way would be really helpful. I do think, I mean, we need to look at it.
These connections can sometimes be subtle connections. It does have to still support the wetland criteria.
Looks like you got a lot of green growth coming in. I don't know if it's moss or what, but it's, yeah, you got a lot of green growth. Probably from, once it dried up.
Yeah, it's been wet this year.
You're talking about in the base of the trees? Is that what you're talking about?
So
Are the
ba-
wetland flags still up out there?
Yes.
So basically, at this point, the board would like to go out and view this, I would think.
You want to set up a time now while you're
Sure.
here? Because it's like herding cats if I let you out of the room.
You don't need me for that, right?
Somebody want to set up whenever they can go out?
Saturday? Is
Saturday?
anyone-
I'm in Maine tomorrow night through Sunday.
Do you want to do a Monday afternoon site walk? We like those.
Monday at like 5:30, 6 o'clock? Still got,
Monday's not, well, hold on. Saturday would be better.
we might be able to do 2 also,
Yeah.
if we have one.
I can
one
always
taker.
go during the day with you two
Yeah.
separately if that, if.
Could you go someday during the week, during the day? I forget what your schedule's like.
Usually on Monday, I won't be available till well after 6.
Yeah.
So.
So there's some sort of a consensus of opinion as to
What works for you?
Well, we've only got one ticket for Saturday.
What's that?
We've only got one ticket for Saturday.
What time on Saturday do you want to?
I'm not going
early.
Saturday.
And next Saturday is Labor Day weekend, right?
That's right.
Yeah, the Saturday following is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely.
And I prefer not to
no.
do Saturday, but
Hmm.
can you guys do Monday, 5:30, 6 o'clock?
Bring bug spray.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the earliest you can do on a weekday? What's the earliest?
We said you
can
can't do it
on-
Monday.
I can't do Monday. I could do this Friday. I could do like 5:30 Friday.
This coming
I
Friday.
can do Monday, I just can't, I can't do until Monday. Monday is my first opportunity
Yeah.
because I'm out of town, that's all.
Yeah,
I could do Tuesday.
But I could do Monday. or
Tuesday, at
Tuesday.
what time?
5:30.
Can you do it earlier?
Nope.
Or we could just do rotating Tuesday. It sounds like you want to start earlier on a Tuesday.
So I'm thinking
What time is earlier?
Do you care, Andrew? What's your?
5 would be better for me.
On
I could do 5 on
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Do like 5. Well, how early do you want to do it on?
5.
5. I could probably swing that 5 o'clock.
And when do you think you could swing by on Tuesday?
I'd probably be there 5:30.
All right, so why don't we start at 5 and then we'll swing by and do it again?
It's fine.
And, because Anna's probably going to want to be on the later side anyway. And could you do one of those?
Mhm.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll do next Tuesday, the 29th at 5.
And you think Dave Crossman will be able to be there?
I will let you know.
No.
could be there.
I wasn't planning to. If you need me to, I might be able to. I'd have to check my schedule.
I don't think
It's kind of in your best interest.
Yeah, but I haven't done any of the work. I've hired these guys to do all the engineering work there.
Might not
The
be able to add much.
experts, you know,
Okay.
I don't have any technical expertise in this area. Does it make a difference to you in your decision?
No, it's your representation, that's all.
We just like to make sure that you have the opportunity, since you're the owner,
But Dan, you could be
give the
there.
opportunity to come.
Like someone's gonna be there.
Tuesday, 5
That's
o'clock.
basically,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
29th?
Someone will be there, right, to
Yeah.
show us.
At least,
Well,
Somebody,
Yeah.
if, the schedule fluctuates.
And what's the best way to get in?
yeah, that's all.
Meet up at
Just so
his
you
cabin?
know.
Fort Pond, or?
what do you think is the best way
What's
for
that?
them to get here?
Sarah Indian Way, so right off Fort Pond Road. There's Sarah Indian Way. It's a private road with gates, but the gates are always open. And just follow it, and you'll see the markers.
You'll see what?
The markers,
Markers for,
the lot, the plot.
So you go down
The plot
Sarah
markers.
Indian Way.
Yeah, so Sarah Indian Way is right off Fort Pond.
would it be on the right or
It's
left?
kind of on the
Would
middle.
it- would it be on the right or left as we're coming in?
So it'll be on the east side, depending on which side you're coming in on. If you're coming on Nagog Hill Road, then it'll be on your right. If you're coming off Newtown Road, it's going to be off your left.
Can you send us a locus map about where we're going?
Sure.
So everybody
There's
starts.
actually one on the plan,
Have a
too.
place you're gonna meet as a group.
Yeah.
Shagbark Drive.
Sounds like.
So
we're
you
out in
can
the
park,
morning.
so it's not a public road, so you can just all park right along along Sarah Indian Way right there.
So is it-
So the easiest way to do it is just to access right
How
off
far
here.
from my red dot?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it at the red dot? or
It's
is it
at,
by
it's at the red dot.
Is it, so it's at like the,
That red dot is Sarah
Shagbark.
Indian Way. So Shagbark, no, you don't want to go, yeah, so Shagbark, when you're going up Sarah Indian Way off Fort Pond Road, it's going to fork. Sarah Indian Way stays to the left, Shagbark goes to the right.
yep, okay. Oops. So I just stuck Sarah Indian Way, Littleton, Mass in, and
Yeah.
it got me to the, kind of
Yeah,
the
it-
Y
it-
junction.
it-
Like, that's how we got to
Dead
Kristen's
ends,
property, so if you go in that way, is the lot going to be on the left or the right?
It'll be on the left.
On the left, all right.
And Sarah Indian
So
Way
south of-
dead ends, so, worst case, you're gonna come to you'll see the last house there and just, if I'm available, I'll get there before 5 and flag it in.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, we gotta move along.
Yep.
You all set?
Yes.
Okay. Public,
And you wanted to check with DP, you haven't gotten the file number yet?
Yeah, we haven't gotten the number yet.
If you're probably going to close tonight, so I wasn't going to push them, but.
Probably very busy.
We're all set?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Wait for the next people to come in and take your seats.
A long pause. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yep. Public hearing request to amend order of conditions 204-2728, 46A Nagog Hill. Somebody want to speak to that one?
Hi,
Hello?
I'm Sandra Santoro.
Michael Santoro.
So we purchased the land there in February, and it came with previously approved house plans. There was an existing order of conditions.
Do you guys know where this is?
Mm-hmm.
Right across from the apple orchard.
It's the Separettis that's sold?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the house that was approved before didn't work for us. So we hired an architect to design another house. And the report that I submitted to you all has the outline of the new house kind of superimposed on the existing plot plan.
Do you have the maps there?
I have a small version.
It's,
Overguard's property or,
You know, like the big, like, you go down Nacog Hill from Newtown, you go down the hill and then kind of back up towards the orchard.
Yeah.
And right before, well, a little before you get to the stop sign intersection, on your
Yeah.
left, there's kind of like a big brown wooden barn. That's the Sufferetti's house, and in back is the land that they're talking about.
So is it that piece of land that was delineated, was it on a hill?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
downhill.
Big hill behind it?
Yep, so the
It's a
house
vacant
is
piece of land. It's behind, it's kind of a long
dry.
drive, right?
Yep.
Behind that
A
house.
300-foot drive.
So I just have a small
I
version
know the
here.
site. It's on
Um,
that big steep hillside, right behind?
yes, it's built into the house. I mean, built into the hill.
Got it. There you are.
So we have an engineer that's working on updating the plot plan for us.
Ross Associates, who I believe delineated it
The first
previously.
And we'll get that to you as soon as we have it, and that'll show the new elevations. But we aren't planning any big changes to the footprint besides this deck.
We're actually reducing the footprint of the house. It's going to be smaller. This is a proposed garage. This is what we want to build. So this was approved.
The
In the
wetland
back
line,
of the
or
house.
excuse me, the
It's actually
50
staying the
buffer
same.
Yeah.
zone line, and this patio area was already approved, and we have this little corner here and this back area that would be in the 50-foot buffer zone. We'd really like to have a deck. We wanted to put a porch on the front, but there's septic system in the front, and we're kind of limited on the side with the lot lines.
Are your setbacks, how far are you?
I mean, this is the lot line, I'm not sure the distance.
It's within the,
it like
the
10
designer
feet or
looked at it.
something?
It's
You looked
within
at
the
the setback?
setback, yeah.
Yeah,
Because they had left a generous amount that
yeah,
really
and we're
moved over
planning to
2 feet, I
move
believe.
all the retaining wall and the grading here. It's just the grading around the rear of the house that we don't have the exact elevations on at this moment. Yeah, nothing to add.
No. I guess the only additional thing would be several sonotube concrete pilings for
Right.
this corner of the deck that
And-
that weren't in the original.
Yeah, and
proposal.
because it's built into the hill, the deck is actually, it's like a whole floor above the ground.
So you, okay.
That's the
So-
50-foot.
Yep.
Yep.
And so.
So where's the
This was
original
already approved.
house?
This part was already approved,
and I
it's just
can't
this
quite
little piece right here?
Yes.
This line here is the original house.
Actually, I believe this whole,
There's-
And
the
this
whole back
patio was
portion,
original.
the whole back portion was not there.
I'm
What are you
sorry.
calling deck?
This,
Okay.
I'm
this piece right
The
here.
orange is
But-
new.
But that's outside the 50.
This is old.
Right,
So
I
this
was
right.
is
wondering
the
about
back,
what's.
Yeah.
my-
old basement.
This is the
And
original
this
house?
does
was
predate
approved?
the 50,
Oh,
the
okay.
bylaw.
Yeah, this dark line right here, this
Well,
is the
If you so
original
choose.
house plan.
Well,
So the question, this
the
is,
house, the existing predates.
This
but
is in
the
for an amend-
proposal doesn't.
yeah, this is in for an amended notice of intent. So if you choose not to amend the notice of intent, it's a new filing, and then you
So
get the 50
anything
foot.
new within the 50, we have,
I remember you
We
said the rules
have-
changed.
But if they went ahead and
Jurisdictional.
built the house that was proposed, the deck is included in it. The area of the deck,
There was a
No,
there was a
except for
patio.
this.
not all of it.
Except for
The-
that.
There is some
that
additional
piece.
deck.
Oh, was this was a patio originally, you're just trying to change
Just where
that
the
to a
wall.
deck?
It's hard to
See,
tell.
Yeah.
that was
Oh.
That was
approved
already
patio. We should have delineated it.
No, it's
We
okay.
should have brought
I just
the
want to
old
make
one
sure
to
we're
this
talking
one.
about the right. So, I guess just this shape
It's
right
like out
here,
back, like,
was that going to be
way
patio
out here.
before? or,
No.
Like
It's like
right
right
here?
there.
No,
Okay,
that
so
was-
that's
that's
complete-
new.
That's
It's
what
kind
I'm
of
trying to
a
get to.
Yes.
So this is completely new.
Mhm.
And then are you, okay. And we're not really reducing anything anywhere.
We reduced
But
The
outside of
reduce the size,
100 meters to the
exactly.
wetlands.
yeah.
outside of the
But
buffer.
if you put
The original
this here,
plans.
then you wouldn't be,
This is a garage, so there wouldn't be any access from the living quarters to get to that.
It's a-
what I'm trying to help you is that
Sorry.
we can deny the 50
Mhm.
as no disturbed. But if you were to put this here, it would not be altering the plan that was originally approved. This is what I was getting at.
Okay.
Is that the original filing right
That's the
there?
original filing, the big one.
Can I
put some of the
do you mind if I grab
dimensions
that?
on there.
I can show you guys some pictures too. They're not photos, but, this is the rear of the house, that we're proposing, there. So, the reason we'd like not to bring that over that way is because we want a deck on the south side here, and it kind of wraps. And then also, this is gonna be a
Gotta grow
workshop
tomatoes and
area
cucumbers.
underneath.
Yeah, I could see not wanting to have a deck right over your
Yeah.
garage. I guess the thing that concerns me is like the precedent we would or wouldn't be setting by, improving additional
I mean, you say-
impact in the
made
50.
such an issue out of.
Yeah, I asked for
That's my
some sort of
concern.
analysis that they hadn't had time to do about
Yeah.
what was the original proposed
Mhm.
deck and impervious type stuff and what is currently proposed in the breakdown.
Yeah.
To see what it is, so.
I mean,
The architects hadn't had a chance to
Yeah.
come up with the numbers yet. I suggest they come in tonight and hear your
Yeah.
concerns before they may have those numbers, if you feel the need to wait for them.
So I realize the deck is.
Is the deck
over-
considered impervious?
Right. If it's
In your eyes?
above and we leave vegetation.
Oh, it's just
underneath.
disturbance within the 50, and so
Okay.
that's a jurisdictional area, and so the concern I have is, although it seemed, is, like, it seems like a reasonable idea, and it may, the impacts, may or may not be negligible, I haven't looked at,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what your alternatives might be, other than going with what was already proposed anyways. My concern is setting a precedent by,
I guess where we're coming from is that the grades were all approved to be changed anyway, so there was going to be disturbance
okay.
no matter what during construction, and it would
It's a
only,
retaining wall.
there's a retaining wall down here, all these grades are changed from what's originally there, and it's just some pilings.
It's not unreasonable, but I'm just going by what was approved at town meeting.
Right.
No, you
That-
have to, we have to,
How many pilings would be required just to put,
well, it's the thing, the deck is gonna be totally supported by pilings. Is that gonna be the limit of film, is that gonna be the limit?
well, it's gonna be all
It's gonna-
regraded anyway, Tom,
Sonotubes.
Sonotubes on the outer edge attached to the house.
but it's all gonna be regraded anyway. It's not like it's not gonna be just
Grading is
not
already
disturbed.
And
So that grading is not changing.
No. Nope, not to my knowledge.
So they're gonna regrade it anyway.
Yeah, and it's actually only looks like an additional 2 pilings on that corner.
I mean, they're gonna change the grade, they gotta it's gonna be disturbed.
Well, this,
Yeah.
the deck is like a wraparound, right? There's like 3 pieces of it?
Yes.
Yes.
Was there a limit of work?
You're just talking about the ones that
I put
are
some of the
in that area.
dimensions on the big plan of the original.
No, it's all good. I have like, I should carry a purse by now, but I don't.
So was the limit of work on these initial plans at the barrier, the siltation barrier?
At the retaining wall.
And it's the retaining wall there now, or is that gonna be put in?
No, so originally,
Planned.
they planned this retaining wall so they could pull in the toe slope as much as they could.
Right, 'cause it's being,
So the retaining walls are permitted to be constructed, is that right?
Correct.
And that's
This
already,
this is the grading and retaining wall.
and that's already beyond,
Oh, it's 12, yeah.
yeah.
Well, the closest point was 41 feet from the patio to the wetland. Yep, this is me.
Wait, how do you not have, do you have
40.
springs coming out here? How is there a
So if
wetland
they're disturbing it anyway,
higher?
Oh, it's just existing.
it's not gonna make.
Oh, no, this is
full of beans.
Oh, okay.
I'm just trying to make sure we can
Yeah.
justify it, like you
Got it,
said.
okay.
We have to be able to justify it.
So,
Go-
Yeah, I mean, if there's,
So this piece of house
that's a
is
factor,
going,
if there's grading approved
this piece of
already.
house is going away.
So we
Yeah.
have garage, the cars
But
are
that's
over here.
outside.
And is the garage staying?
50.
I wasn't clear.
It's just
from
gonna
that.
It is, but we're actually,
And
we're pulling it back,
the
so there's gonna be
basement,
less.
so it costs
less
less
structure.
To have a
Okay,
higher
so
ceiling,
this part of the
and
garage is not being built.
So it's just a really
Exactly.
high
So
ceiling.
you're reducing
And since it's a
impervious
workshop area, we wanted to.
Yes, we're
Surface.
reducing the impervious surface.
on
And of
the,
course, that's
Like woodwork.
100-foot, not.
Just a
it is,
height.
but it's a
But it's-
contributing
oh, yeah,
area, it's a
yeah,
hill, so it's a
absolutely.
contributing area.
Kept, clearly.
Yeah.
But if you're not driving the cars in and out, I mean, is there,
No driveway.
could the deck extend down that way?
We'd rather not have it over the door. And we wanted it to wrap to the, we wanted the deck on the south side and have it wrapped.
Just because
And also
it's a
this is-
bigger area, too.
Sure.
Yeah.
South is a
Yeah,
nice side. for
and
that.
this this section, I think, is only 7 feet or such.
Yeah.
So, it'd be a long skinny deck.
Where they're disturbing it all, it's all in, it's all gonna be disturbed.
And we
That
can put it
original
all
plan.
back however you like, plant wise.
And the decks are gonna be on pilings.
Mhm. And they're
There's
reducing,
minimal disturbance.
Well, it's gonna be regraded.
it's gonna be
Kyle.
regraded regardless.
Yeah, it's gonna be regraded.
So it doesn't,
So I think we can,
yeah,
I think we can approve.
I would think so.
Based on, we're basing it on, because we're not doing it, it's gonna be based on on the original
Yeah, the house plan,
house plans.
because they're regrading it. If it wasn't regraded,
Yeah,
that's
that would
one
be a
thing.
different story. I agree.
But they're regrading and they're putting in the stone wall, retaining wall down
Yeah.
below, which was all,
I'm good.
okay? But do we have actually a plan that we're approving, if we approved it tonight?
I need like, a
You want the
plan with a date on it
engineers?
and all that stuff.
You want another engineering print?
Yeah, because all I have is that, which doesn't
Right.
have a title or date or anything.
Yeah, we
Okay,
got some
so-
stuff to
wait for
approve.
I'll get that to you as soon as I can. He has a backlog, so.
Yeah.
the engineer-
So do you want to wait
We
until
meet
that
again in
comes in and then,
3
That makes
weeks?
sense to wait.
yeah, September 11th,
We
I
need
think it
something
is.
to physically
Sure.
approve, but, I mean, at least, you know, you can,
We can
Yeah.
count on, okay.
Okay.
All right, and so it's not just that we send it to, we need to come to the meeting again?
You probably don't have to.
Do you want them to come back or just get the
No.
plans?
I don't think they need to come
yeah.
back.
Maybe we
Or-
can approve it conditioned on,
You could close and issue
Receiving.
our conditions, with one of the conditions being that a plan be provided,
Let's just wait for the plan.
or just wait for the plan to come in which case you can close it then, but
Too controversial.
if you agree, they don't need to come back.
I would,
but do they need to come in?
no, I don't
We
think
can
so,
approve
but I
it
would
without-
recommend that we close it and subject to a plan that's.
If you close it, I have to issue the order of conditions in 10 days.
Oh, in 10
And the next
days.
meeting
Can't
is
do
not,
that. You can't do that.
is more than 10 days
Because
away.
you don't know when plan's gonna
Right, the
come in.
plan might not come in.
Well, September
in time.
11th is the next meeting, so it's, yeah.
You have to wait.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's fine,
but I wouldn't waste any time, I'd push them to get that plan in,
okay.
okay?
Good. Thank you.
Comment?
Yep.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
So do you concur that, I'm sorry, that they don't need to come in, based on what you've seen? Yeah, I just want to make sure I was,
If there's any questions, it'd be best that you come in, and if it isn't inconvenient, just be here. If there was any
Right,
questions.
well, yeah, that's true.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's it, that's, right,
That's not a problem.
there's a
Great.
question.
Got it.
Amy, is this yours, Amy?
We just don't want to
Yes,
be
it
in
is.
line behind the paper.
Oh, okay.
Stick you in.
We opened up a spot for you.
Great.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Why wasn't even on the agenda?
Thank you, Amy.
That's my fault.
Oh, boy.
I looked, oh,
I think,
whatever.
I was so done with them.
After hearing his concerns from the field,
Thank you for,
Strike coming in after Turkey.
no, I'm just happy to be on my
It
own.
just is what it is. It's every meeting, and then I just move on.
Same as, somebody want to give me some input as to why Matt's here, or?
So I can get my enforcement order lifted.
Oh.
You mean why Matt thinks he's here?
Thank you for everybody coming out. You didn't get to go walk, did you?
I did not, no.
You're one lucky girl. I felt like I was in the principal's office every single time.
You were.
It's a very uncomfortable position.
You know, I made a comment about 8 inches of rain. Somebody, I think down the Cape, got 7 inches of rain this last week.
I
Oh, I
thought
saw that.
I thought I heard that. I was like, that
Saw
can't be
Actually
right.
saw it on the news tonight. It's a place that I used to hang out at. It was called the Beachcomber.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's
I've been
right.
there.
Oh.
And there's
Their
a
whole
car
back
down in the
parking lot.
village.
Did that wash away?
It washed away, you know.
I'm
the-
not
have you been
surprised.
to the
That thing is
Beachcomber?
so
You
unstable.
know the path
Yeah.
you slide down instead of walking because it's so
Yeah.
steep?
It's on a dune.
A car was halfway down it, embedded in,
Yeah, is it just that it like?
it just
slumped?
collapsed.
Yeah,
What happened to the
it's
building?
not
Anything?
surprising.
Nothing, they're still operational, people hanging out.
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
No, it's a good hang, there's not much around there for hanging out, so.
You know Colby, Michael's son?
Yeah.
Colby and Emily were there on, and they're not allowed to play in the dunes, and they were riding down skimboards on the hill. That's how steep it is.
I'm sure
It
the
is, it's
National
like
Park,
Marconi,
I'm sure the
it's
National
really-
Park Service would love for the beachcomber to get washed away.
Yeah. They probably
No,
would.
that's a landmark.
I
That's a
know,
good
they
place.
don't care. I mean, they just, they want.
Well, that's a shame.
I would think that's what, don't go right, I'm sure that's what they would love.
But that was my point, that we could get 7 or 8 inches of rain. That's why I
We got
was,
7 or 8 inches of rain out here, we better have an arc.
I was driving down from New Hampshire on that rainstorm, and there was some seriously heavy rain.
Yeah.
I mean, there was easily 3-4 inches piling up in an hour.
yeah, that's the problem. It wasn't over a period of time, it was just short.
Very short.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
So anyways.
So we had the
Impervious
site walk.
surface, so it
I mean,
doesn't.
we- you and I
we
talked
have
about
talked
this.
about it.
So we're good to go.
I've seriously looked into it, and I'm not
Just,
not
just
I'm
how
not arguing with you.
It is what it is. So since we have a selectman here, I think it's, I think it's,
Worthy.
worthy. I think it's important that, he hear what we have to say. Because I did express a lot of concern when all this happened. And, I do want to say that the Fields reacted very quickly to this mishap, and it was a major, it was a major problem when it happened, and they reacted really quickly, and I think because of that, saved themselves a whole lot of problems. And they also had it was a mixture of things. It was the way the sand wound up laying down there. It was a little bit easier it came out in like clumps. But the whole, I just wanted to, I've told them this several times, I was really happy at how they reacted and how fast they got that material out of there.
Yeah.
And did a really good job, and went to whatever extent they needed to make it happen. So I just wanted to say that, so he didn't
Thank you.
kind of leave it
That's
with a
nice to
black
hear.
eye.
Yeah.
Tom took
thank
advice
you.
too, like listen to, what Amy and we had to say, and, rather than taking your own path because,
No,
we
we
thought something different.
do what we're told, and, it's an unfortunate thing to have happen. It was extremely expensive, I mean, to have that truck out there, and my brother working as hard as he did, and I don't think there's a Littleton kid that'll work for us ever again. Ever.
Yeah, I saw that, it was.
I think once we
They
get
were
by
working
that, once we
hard.
get by that initial meeting, I think we were all in agreement, it was good.
Yep.
But
Thank you.
I guess my next question would be, do you have something, just kind of a preventative?
Yes, sir, we do. So the board has been out there and they've seen, we had all the stump grindings and we had, we replaced all the silt fence, the wattle, put up hay bales, backed that with the grindings from the stump, made a catch area for that. We have riprap up above that. We have drains up the, dams up the road. We have a basin at the bottom of the road. We have backed all the lots from lot 6 through 19, all the way down to the cul-de-sac with loom to keep the water channeled on the road. It's seeded, it's taken. We have bark mulch down at the bottom with 3 check dams there as well, not silting up our areas, but we're gonna have to desilt them anyways. And the road will be paved by September 1st. We're still on schedule for that. All the water, all the crossings are done, all the drainage is done, not active yet until the road is paved, but we've taken every step that was given to us, and then some.
Has the sewer line been worked on yet?
No, sir, not yet, not until after the pavement is done. We have left that area in between the area that we put the wood chips and the silt fence, didn't put the loom there. So we had an area to stockpile that and then put that and then pull the loom back down and make a dam there as well.
So you've tried to, it sounds like you've tried pretty much to whatever preventative measures you can take.
We've taken every advice, not only from our engineer, but from the board, as well as Green International and the town engineer.
And I went out there, Jim, on a rainstorm. It wasn't a super heavy one, but it was still a rainstorm, just to see how things were working, and it was working fine. What they had done was actually holding
That's
water
good.
back.
That's good to hear.
Yeah,
I mean, it's,
yeah.
hopefully you don't get some catastrophic 6.
I think we've got it behind us now. I mean, even if we do get a heavy rain, I think we've got control of the
That's
area.
good.
With the loom on it and the seed, that takes up a lot of the water that hits the ground.
So the one thing that we had talked about, we were probably going to bring that up tonight, was we don't know how that area is going to restore. We didn't want to put any type of restoration plan in place yet. It may not be needed. And rather to have them spend more money on something like that that's not needed, we wanted to just give it some time
Give it a year.
and see, and let it come
Revisit
back.
next spring.
If I may interrupt, we have hay bale on our property line that we were asked to remove in the fall, which we will, and we'll invite you back out after that's done. They wanted to see the leaf falling, and then in the spring, go back and, as Carl had said, come back and look at it and see what direction we need to take at that point. So we're all for it.
So they were open to that discussion?
I mean, there was such wild growth there when I saw it this spring. There's bound to be something come back.
No, I think it will come back. I think there's enough seed source around there, and they did get them, I mean, obviously they didn't get all the material out, but the majority of what would cause problems is out of there. And,
And I think when we were walking out there, we all agreed to go after, the additional smaller amounts in, many different areas was gonna cause more compaction and more impacts.
if they do need to do, some associated plantings or whatever, we'll just identify some areas and just have it done.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's not gonna have to be done, but we'll see.
Yeah, sounds
We're
good.
open. But this is not a project that's gonna end in a year. We're gonna be here for 2 years and probably 2.5 years maybe. But that's,
No, it sounds like you're making progress to stabilize the whole thing. That's the main thing.
Yeah. That was the point I wanted to make, that they did. They've done a really good job on this. What could have been a disaster.
So I assume you're looking to get this enforcement order listed. Is that something the board wants to do?
So, from what I'm hearing and from when we were out there, I thought there were 4 conditions that would kind of go with the, if you vote to lift the enforcement
Yeah.
order, that would go along with that, was this, an end of this season report on restoration by Goddard, removing the hay bales in the late fall, which may or may not happen at the same time as Goddard goes out there, and then continue the interim construction, stormwater controls, and weekly reports by Michael.
Yep.
Yeah.
Goddard does need to be involved in those unless something happens again. And then whether or not you want formal monitoring reports at the beginning and end of the next growing season in 2018 or not.
A what?
Goddard to come back out and do a formal monitoring
Yeah,
reports.
I think we had.
Because that'll get you the full year.
I think we had talked about that.
Yeah. So one submitted by June 30th, one submitted by September 30th or something like that.
Just what's there, and that would give us a good read.
Yep. We had said we'd take pictures and do all that, and, I mean, because there are paths that we literally, we know every inch of that now.
If they do, it's very funny.
Yeah.
That, you know, so we can take pictures and know exactly where we are in that, and then go back on it. And I'm happy with all 4 of those.
Well, do we want an inspection by Goddard or a consultant, or by the fields taking pictures?
I would have the wetland.
I do it by
Yeah, that's
Goddard.
right.
I'd rather not.
Yeah,
He's
that's,
very
I thought that was
expensive.
I thought that was a
No, it's
sticking
not
point.
cheap.
I mean,
But the
we
problem is
literally
you'd have
know
to- you'd
every
have-
inch of
then
it.
you'd
We'll
have
take
to-
Yeah.
pictures, we can put marks on the trees for you with a ribbon. We can go
Yeah.
back out if you'd like, but if
So
you.
monitoring your-
I'd frankly feel better about having Goddard do it because they know
That
what
truck
looks
was
right, what doesn't
expensive.
look right.
Yeah, no, you don't need to, you don't need the back
I
truck
think
for
we need
this.
to have the.
But it is, it's a very specific report.
We need to have.
Okay.
It is,
the
it's a very
consultant
specific
do it.
report.
I got a
that-
Plus,
No, I understand.
let's finish
Understood.
it up the right way, and we'll
Yep.
have,
Right, so there's no question.
I'm
So
in.
you're not out there
I'm
taking,
in.
taking
Much as I don't wanna
pictures.
be, I'm in.
Instead of taking pictures, you can be managing
We're
the
saving you
project
from doing a
instead.
restoration plan immediately. so
Yes, sir. I'm
Yeah.
in.
trying to save you
Rather
some
than,
money.
You have done well.
it'll save you time and
I'm in.
anguish.
I'm in. Let's make a vote. I make a motion.
Somebody want to make a motion to?
Do you want to do it?
Please do it, Kyle.
All right, I'll make a motion that we lift the enforcement order on, geez, it's not on the agenda, on
180 Great Road.
on the, what is it?
180 Great Road.
180 Great Road.
With the
Cooper
conditions.
Farm,
Condition.
with the order, with the conditions.
That Amy stated.
Stated by Amy Green. Is that all we need?
Well, you need to include you want to have somebody come and,
You want me,
Those
That's
are all-
one of her conditions.
Those are all in the conditions.
those 4 conditions, yeah.
I have a second?
Yeah. Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I really truly want to thank all of you. So, good. Thank you.
It goes both
Thank you.
ways.
You guys have a wonderful evening.
Yeah,
Amy, thank you.
I was just poking my head in about the YAP conservation area. I know that was part of your administrative discussion earlier, but I wanted to see if you guys had any questions. What we did or didn't.
Do you have any insights in this?
What was that?
Did you guys do anything?
Well, what the conclusion Board of Selectmen ultimately reached was.
Oh, I think you're all talking about 2 different things.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking about
Yeah.
the.
Property line?
The butter acquisition.
Wanting to buy the town land, which is not part of the
Oh.
conservation land of the
You
town.
had
Oh.
said-
I
that's
thought that
what you
was,
sent to us.
That's what,
that
I think I
was
just sent it to you and Sarah.
2 weeks ago.
Um,
I didn't see it.
Yeah, this is the abutter, there are 2 residences, there's a piece of town-owned property that abuts the Yap Conservation Land. The
Yeah, I
residences
remember
each
that from
wanted
2 weeks.
416 and
Up-
418.
Yeah.
up to 4,800 square feet, which the town's abutter policy allows them to acquire. And my understanding was that conservation was strongly opposed to that acquisition. The compromise the Board of Selectmen reached was that a butter will be, provided the article passes its town meeting, and certainly you guys can choose to support it or not. The article is written such that the abutters will be allowed to acquire that 4,800 square feet of that of that 0.84 acre parcel with, so about a tenth of an acre.
So I have to start
And
doing
then
some math.
Their neighbor could also acquire a tenth of an acre if they so chose, and then the remainder of that 0.84 acre parcel will be folded into the Yap Conservation Land. So they won't be allowed to expand anymore because that'll now be part of the Yap Conservation Land.
I think it's a good compromise.
But they will be allowed to expand
Yeah.
some extent despite the fact that conservation is strongly opposed.
I think it's a win-win.
And then I started throwing all sorts of caveats at them, like, make sure that access is maintained and there's a hedgerow or tree line, something in the back, which I think would be avoided anyway by the, it depends how the dimensions are.
Yeah, I mean, essentially the 4,800 would be, it would be, I want to say that the width of the property is
They're 100.
100 feet,
Yeah.
so it would be about 48 feet back and 100 feet wide because the property has 100 feet of frontage, which as I could tell from the aerial, wouldn't significantly impact any.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest concern was connectivity and access for conservation land, so, and if they're allowed to take, whatever the abutters are allowed to do in the first place, man, it seems like.
And it also maintains that, I mean, there's access to Yap just down the road, but it
Yeah.
also maintains that small strip that accesses Newtown Road
Yep.
north of the main
Yeah.
conservation land access, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the goals of our conservation land, so.
I just wanted to
Makes
touch base
sense.
and at least give you guys the
No,
direction.
Okay.
behind
I appreciate that.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that was done on it, because that could have gone a different way, too. So,
And that's where it was also the monkey wrench, because that's 416 and 418 Newtown, but 420, there's a little bit of a property line dispute.
Oh, is that?
On there.
oh,
So-
That's
so
what, that's
sort
what
of-
I thought you were.
Oh, I didn't remember the numbers, and
I know, and-
it seemed about right, so
Yeah.
I don't know what that
Close.
was.
And that's also where I kept saying, well, if they
Good
got
to
to
know.
survey 416, 418, can they just throw in 420 for free?
Yeah, that's not how that works.
Well, this would be the time to have it surveyed if they're all in line.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
it's already out there.
Then there's no
There's
questions.
not a lot of mob.
All of that surveying would be done by essentially by the property owners who wish to acquire the abutting parcel. So the property owners that wish to subdivide that parcel are going to have it surveyed. They're going to have to deal with the legal arrangements to have it subdivided, which also includes the survey associated with it. So I don't know if we could.
Yeah, so if we
Yeah,
want to
we
do 420,
can't- we
we would have to
can't,
make a side agreement
Yeah,
with
you
the guy,
can't
say,
do-
well, as long as you're out there mobilized,
No,
you know,
wrong
what can
con-
you do for the town?
Right,
Wrong
that makes
contract.
sense. I mean, that would,
Rick
Sounds like a
Finley is also
contracting
trying to see
problem.
if someone's going to do this pro bono, but, it's a fair bit of work.
Well, they'll probably end up having to survey the whole parcel to start with, right?
I would think so, yeah.
That's gonna get expensive.
Oh, not the whole Yap parcel, just the.
No, but that chunk we're
Yeah,
talking
that
about.
point I can
L
tell
shape.
you. Right, and the property owners that wish to acquire that will have to bear the cost of
Right.
that acquisition.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like
Do
a good
they know
opportunity
that?
for the town to
They
jump
know
on
that,
that.
and they came in specifically, they came into the meeting requesting the ability to acquire that property, knowing that that was likely to be a condition, that they would have to do whatever needed to be done to subdivide that parcel. Because it will ultimately require 3 subdivisions, potentially. Part of it carved off into the Yap conservation land, part of it carved off into one residential, and part of it carved off into the other residential, if that second residential does in fact choose to acquire that 4,800 square feet.
I
So
got
they-
I got
sorry,
another
Jim.
question. Where's the septic system for the Shaker Lane School down in there someplace? Is that anywhere near that?
It's the other end of the neighborhoods, I think.
Yeah.
Isn't it like
I think so.
Manchester,
Yeah,
whatever that
it's-
is?
It's over by, it's on the other end.
Yeah.
Is that, I was just wondering if that was a possibility the land would perk if ever needed for the septic system for the school. It's up there too. But just,
Right, take a moment. I mean, there is some concern about that land perking at all for the
People that are
residents
buying them?
that are acquiring. In fact,
Yeah.
Board of Selectmen approved those abutters to go out and do a perk test on town land to see if it'll perk, because
Before they
expanding
even
their
buy
house
it.
will involve expanding the septic, or putting in a new septic system, giving that additional.
Okay.
Yeah, that was mostly it.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Chase.
Thanks, Chase.
Thank you.
Appreciate all the work on that.
Have you got anything else?
Just on the regulatory review, which you already sort of discussed in terms of the public interest piece of things, and you kind of discussed before some other stuff, like, what is de minimis and how much we allow. The other thing that came up when I was going back and forth with town council was that before the bylaw, the Wetlands Protection Act has a list of minor projects, like, a fence that's not going to stop wildlife, or small amounts of vista pruning, or road signs, or, things like that, that are allowed without filing. But Rebecca said that the bylaw would trump that now, so those minor projects went away if they're putting up a road sign within 50 feet. So if you don't want to see Jim Clyde in here all the time, and there's a long list of all the minor projects that would be affected if you want to look at it, and not tonight, but at some point decide, should we let these stand as things are still allowed within the 50-foot or not?
Well, I know that one of the highway guys was talking to me that they wanted to be able to spray along the guardrails with Roundup, something of that nature, so they didn't have to be trying to trim them all by hand,
Jim
or
DeVogel.
stuff that they couldn't get with a mower. So it seems like there's some things we gotta kind of just plain allow. Putting up a road sign doesn't really impact too much. It's
Yeah, I think for the
common sense.
herbicide spraying, they need to come in like the T does, for
Yeah.
the railroads, and get a 3 to 5 year permit and
Yeah.
go to town.
So we know where they're spraying.
But they do,
It doesn't work on Japanese knotweed. It doesn't.
Nothing works on Japanese knotweed.
No, like it really, it legit doesn't work.
But for instance, what they would be allowed, vegetation cutting for road safety maintenance is
Yeah.
allowed, with a whole bunch of caveats in it. So the question is, do you still want those to carry over? So
Currently, our bylaw does not allow that to carry over?
apparently the bylaw would trump this, whereas before, if, Jim Clyder or someone come in and say, I want to plant native species of trees, shrubs, and ground cover, but excluding turf lawns, before I could say, yeah, fine, turn your lawn into a wildlife habitat. But right now, if that work is in the 50-foot, they would need to come in, because these minor projects don't have any weight anymore. So take a look at them.
Probably look at that.
We certainly don't need to, unless you want to stick around and come back.
I prefer not to.
No, you're all looking at me like, are you nuts?
We
So
can- no, but
there's your homework.
We're almost, town meeting is November.
This wouldn't be town meeting. It would just have to
Oh, it
go-
wouldn't be.
It's a regulation, so it just has to.
Okay, so it wouldn't, so we're not looking at
So
trying to draft.
They're kind of a laundry list here of things that may or may not need tightening up in the regulations. And it always comes up at the end of the night. Nobody, including me, wants to talk about it, so I don't know if you want to focus at some point on this.
Well, I was just thinking, they just mowed along Bruce Street, and there's a whole lot of wetlands. Technically, they shouldn't have mowed it. If you don't allow them within their towns right away.
Yeah. So, and there may be some, you may say, all those count except for, some of them.
And that's a safety thing alone, just getting the brush
Yeah, well, and
stuff.
that's not practical. We can't not allow the highway department to.
No, but I'm just, those are different
But
things
that's
that,
the stuff
Yeah.
that gets caught.
Okay. Yeah, we need to deal with that.
so if
That was
this,
it.
So do we rewrite the bylaws together, or do we make recommendations and you rewrite, or do a couple of us rewrite? How does that
Whatever your
work?
way to do it, it is hard doing it as a whole body.
Yeah.
Because it does get bogged down, so.
Yeah.
I'd like to get some guidance, certainly from everybody, about what you want to do, and then
Yeah.
I could take a stab at it, you could form a little subcommittee of anybody who's like,
Well,
I don't work on
we
this.
know Anna's interested.
Ann and Sarah, then, okay. yeah. Yeah, Ann is,
You end up with a 75
well, Ann is also interested in changing the bylaw itself to include isolated vegetated wetlands, such as the one this guy's putting a driveway through. That's a different story than some of this tweaking of the regulations.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a
Yeah.
different story.
Okay. If there's no more business, I'd like to have somebody make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 9:45.
Motion to
Second.
adjourn.
All those in favor?
I
Aye.